Joined now by sports director Matt McCoy and for baseball monster Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman. It's absolutely worth it. Marty, long time no talk. How you been?
Thanks, guys. Good talking with you.
It's a fun season considering you kind of started a little slow, 1-8, but they've been playing some better ball here lately, haven't they?
Yeah, they played very well. I say very well. They played 4 or 5 games over 500 since they lost 8 of their first 9. They dug themselves quite a hole, and now they're faced with a challenge of trying to get out of it. They've yet to have a streak, as I commented on the radio last week. They've got to have 2 weeks where they win 11 of 14 or they win 8 of 10 or something like that to get to 500 and then go from there. And that's a battle that they're facing. They've not been able to do that yet for whatever the reason. But still with a lot of time to go, and they're only, 5.5 games out of first place, which is really not a whole lot considering they're in last place in the division. They've still got time.
Yeah, for sure. So are they capable? I mean, you've been watching baseball a lot of years. You certainly know that answer.
Well, they certainly have the talent. And I don't think anybody can pinpoint a reason as to why they've not done what we feel like they should do in order to get back in this thing. They're in a very tough division, although you look at the records from top to bottom, and it's rather mediocre. But I think part of that has to do with the fact that everybody inside the division beats everybody else inside the division. But they have to do it. I mean, they in the world of sport, and I don't care whether you're the Cincinnati Reds or the Ohio State Buckeyes or whoever you are, if things are not going well, you're going to say all the politically correct things. It's just around the corner, or we're capable of it. I know it's going to happen. You're not going to come out and say, I don't know whether this team's capable of doing that or not. But until they prove that they can, then I don't know whether they are. There's no reason from a talent perspective, and I still maintain, I've said this for the last 3 weeks, the key for me is Joey Votto and Yasiel Puig. Puig has not hit a whole lot at all. He has 11 home runs, but he's batting in the very low 200s, and Votto has started to hit lately. But those 2 guys are big keys. The rest of the fellows who have had good years offensively, I think, will continue and maybe even do better if these 2 veteran players really start to get it done. And once that occurs, then I think things will be a whole lot better.
On the positive side, Marty, and you're right. I mean, if the offense turns around, things certainly can turn around for the Reds. They have pitched better than I expected. Has that been a surprise for you?
It's been a shock to me. I've said it a million times over the 46 years I've been doing this, that this organization, from a baseball perspective, has been noted for a lot of things, but pitching ain't been one of them. They added the 2 veteran pitchers in the offseason, and Tanner Roark from Washington and Sonny Gray from the Yankees, and their rotation has shocked me. I've seen a greater run of success from the pitching staff than I can ever recollect, or at least going back to 1990 when that team won the World Series with people like Jose Rijo and Danny Jackson and Tom Browning and a great bullpen. But the pitching has really surprised me. I said all along the offense would be fine based on what we felt they added and what they had coming back, that they were going to be one of the better offensive teams in baseball, and lately they've been that. But it took them forever and a day to get there, and that's part of the reason why they lost 8 of the first 9 and played so poorly in April.
Reds baseball overall with Marty Brennaman, Hall of Famer. Marty, can I have you hang on for about 90 seconds? I got to do quick traffic and weather.
Certainly.
Absolutely. That's why we love him. He's a pro. Sports director Matt McCoy and I interviewing Marty Brennaman, Hall of Famer with the Reds. Marty, can you tell me what is going on with the Pirates this year?
That sounds like a Pirate fan.
Not at all, but I mean, there's brawls, there's all kinds of stuff.
The bad blood, yes.
Oh, you mean the relationship they've had with the Reds?
Yes.
Well, this is something that this didn't just sprout this year. I mean, it's been going on now a number of years. It's kind of like a Cold War that simmers just under the surface. These 2 teams have hit each other, that is with pitches, probably more than, I know not probably, but more than any 2 teams that have played one another over the last 5 or 6 years, for whatever the reason. I don't know. But I think it finally surfaced and on the field in the sense of fisticuffs back when the Reds were in Pittsburgh in April and Derek Dietrich hit 2 long home runs in one game against the Pirates and stood there and admired them, and that kind of incited the Pirate team because they felt like it was showing up their pitcher, and the fight began. And so Suarez got hit in the hand on a pitch that was completely inappropriate. I mean, if you're going to throw at a hitter, my experience as a broadcaster has been you throw at him at his legs or at his hip or at his side, but you don't throw the ball up around his head area. And so this thing, I don't think this thing's over by any stretch of the imagination yet. I think it probably will happen again when these two teams play the next time, and again after that. I think it's something that's been established, and I don't really believe it's going to go away anytime soon.
What do you think of David Bell's comments after you mentioned Suarez getting hit the game last week? He clearly is upset at Major League Baseball, feels like they haven't defended his team enough and should step in and be harsher on the Pirates. What's your take on that?
Well, I think baseball has handled this thing about as poorly, not only this particular situation, but there are so many gray areas that are associated with this type of thing involving whoever. And I truly feel and that opens up another subject entirely. I'm not a big fan of all the rules that have been implemented in the last 10 or so years, the home plate rule, the second base rule, warning managers and pitchers if somebody is perceived to having been thrown at. In the old days, the players handled their own problems on the field, and they turned the page, and the next day it was the slate was wiped clean, and there were very few situations where people harbored any ill will toward another team or another player. It was just a way of life in baseball. You've got to take a stand if you're Major League Baseball, which I think is very, very wishy-washy in general about a lot of things under the leadership that they have right now. And I didn't disagree one bit with what David Bell said, and hopefully something good will come out of that. Although what I found very telling about the whole situation, his comments, and on the heels of being thrown out of that game, and nothing ever happened to him. He was not fined, he was not suspended, and that makes me think that maybe his comments fell on ears that found it very interesting what he had to say. Hence, nothing happened to him by being very, very outspoken about that situation.
Visiting with Marty Brennaman, Hall of Fame Reds broadcaster. I got to ask you, the Battle of Ohio, Reds and Indians, they play for the first time, I think, next week.
Correct.
Is that a thing anymore, or have they played so much? Interleague baseball's been around for a long time that they're really just games.
They're really just games. I'd be lying if I said anything else. I was a big fan of interleague play when it first came in, and I don't anticipate, this being my last year, that it's going to go away anytime soon, because I think they can show where attendance increases a certain percentage above the norm when the American League and the National League play against one another. But it's ho hum now; it's no big deal because now you have it from opening day. I mean, you have two teams each from another league playing on opening day, and it's something that's throughout the course of the season. So I don't believe it's going to go away, and I really believe that the Reds and the Indians are simply, one or two or three more games against whoever, no bigger, no smaller than playing anybody else.
Marty, you mentioned your last year. As the days tick off and the season ticks off, is it set in anymore, or are they just games to you right now?
Right now, everything's normal. I mean, I've been recognized in all the ballparks that we've gone into with some message on the big board and things of that nature. But as far as what's going to happen down the road as far as the Reds are concerned, that's not going to happen probably until whatever it is, and I have no idea what it is, until August or September. I'm appreciative of the fact that things are going to happen. I'm going to be very uncomfortable about it because I originally wanted to do the last game of last year and walk away, and they announced it the day after the season ended that I had retired. Mm-hmm. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to make it a bigger deal than, they felt like it was important to the fan, important to the team, that after all these years I was leaving. And so I agreed to do it. So I'm going to be very humbled by it, but I'm also going to be very uncomfortable by it. and it'll happen in the last couple of months.
Well, what's cool is that you realize, and you did this kind of last year, because we, the fans who grew up and continue to listen to you call Reds baseball, it's important for us to have a little closure. So thanks for being uncomfortable for us. It means a lot, dude.
Well, I appreciate you putting it that way. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Marty Brennaman, one of the greats of all time. It's a pleasure to have
Thanks,
you on.
Marty.
And we wish you nothing but success on down the rest of the season. Marty Brennaman on News Radio 610 WTVN.